Hey everyone, welcome to the webinar. I'm here with Matteo. Matteo, how about you kick things off for us?
For sure. Hi, my name is Matteo, manager of the search and advertising team here at Pronto. And together we are going to share, myself and Tim, our three-step website SEO audit process for 2022. This is our clean on-page SEO audit framework. This is the exact approach we take here at Pronto, and you're going to understand why throughout this webinar. SEO, as you all know, is an ever-evolving world. Search and ranking algorithms are constantly changing, and it's on us to make sure that we understand how they work and we understand how to optimize your websites for better rankings.
So, as Matteo said, I'm Tim. I'm the managing director of Pronto. Really excited to share a bunch of information with all of you about SEO. A fun fact is that before I was the managing director, I had Matteo's job, so hopefully I can contribute a bit here, but Matteo is definitely the expert these days on all things related to SEO. So like I said, really happy to be here and sharing some information with you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, let's get started. So this is going to be already a recording of the webinar. You're going to receive it right after we end it, and you're going to receive the slides. You're going to receive all the resources and links that we are going to mention throughout this webinar over the next 30 to 45 minutes. And at the end, for those who are going to stick around, there's going to be a limited time offer that you are definitely not going to want to miss. All right, so let's start with the webinar. Is your business serving 1 to 3 locations and not getting enough qualified local traffic? In other words, do you have a local business website that doesn't generate enough leads or customers? And first of all, what is qualified traffic for your website? Generally, qualified traffic consists of the people who visit your website that are most likely to become leads or customers. And visibility is a central concern in search engine optimization, and improving your website's association with the important keywords of your industry is a good way of achieving greater visibility. However, the keywords that you decide to focus on can have a dramatic impact on not only the amount of search traffic that your domain, your website might receive, but also the amount of qualified traffic.
One thing I'll add here too is that by 1 to 3 locations, we also mean sort of 1 to 3 local service areas. So a lot of the clients we work with maybe just have one physical location, but they serve dozens of cities around them. Maybe they're located in Atlanta, but they serve the entire Atlanta metro area. So this doesn't mean you only have very tiny pinpoint locations that you're after. It can mean 1 to 3 service areas that you're targeting as well.
That's right. And so this is where a website SEO audit can really help. You see, a lot of people tend to overcomplicate SEO audits. You can really go crazy by fine-tuning your website almost to perfection. But there is a lot of little overlooked things, and if we address them quickly, we can potentially get quick gains as well without much effort. So how do we do this without obsessing over your SEO? Well, here at Pronto, we have developed this 3-step website SEO audit framework, which starts with an on-page SEO analysis. Then we go into doing a technical analysis of your website, and then later a content analysis. So this is essentially our 3-step SEO audit framework. And let's start maybe from the on-page SEO. The on-page SEO analysis, where we review your overall website navigation structure and information architecture. In simpler terms, we want to make sure that your most important pages are easily accessible by both visitors and search engines. What that means is that the most important pages of your site should always be no more than 2 or 3 clicks away from the homepage. Also, as part of the on-page SEO analysis, we also look into your title tags, your heading tags, your internal links, and whether your pages are targeting the keywords you want them to rank for. Then we have the technical analysis, and here we dive deeper into the sort of quote unquote invisible frame that makes up your website. We look at any possible technical issues that might hinder your website from performing at its best and from being crawled and indexed correctly by Google. And lastly, we have the content analysis, which looks into potential duplicate pages, duplicate content, theme pages, obsolete pages, and generally anything related to the written elements of your website that needs to be tuned up.
Yeah, another thing that's important to understand here is that we break it down into these three different segments, break our audit down into these segments, because you really do need all three of them working well in order to achieve success when it comes to SEO. If you have a ton of content, but that content isn't optimized well, you're very unlikely to rank for things. Or if you have good content and it's optimized well, but you have technical issues on your site, you're also unlikely to rank for things. So it's really important when you're reviewing your site or digging into an audit that you look at these three different areas and address the issues in all of them, because you need all three working in conjunction with each other.
So when and why should you consider auditing your website? At times it might not seem obvious or necessary. Just like a simple example or analogy, when we buy a brand new car right out of the dealership, spend quite a bit of money on it, and we would never really skip a yearly inspection or a regular maintenance check, even if the car runs perfectly. We really want to make sure that our new car is always running smoothly, right? But after a few years, some of us, when our car is older or out of warranty, many would just probably stop taking the car to the mechanic for regular maintenance checks and hope for the best that it would not break down, right? Our website is pretty much the same. It can run as long as you host it somewhere, but does it perform? Does it generate the results you want it to generate? We generally recommend to run a site-wide SEO audit about once a year. Over the course of a year, a lot of work goes on a website. You add pages, remove pages, move pages around, add or remove plugins, add or remove images and videos. And while doing so, things can naturally break. Really, a website is made up of code, and code can get obsolete or simply break a few nodes here and there that originally were not there when you first designed your site. So the more errors on your site's code you have, the higher the chances are that the overall site's performance will deteriorate. Almost like the engine of a car, really.
Yeah, I really like that analogy. And it works out well too, because sometimes a website can be as expensive as a car, anywhere from a few $1,000s up into the tens of thousands of dollars. And when you're making an investment like that, you want to take care of it. You want to stay up to date with all of that maintenance and not just sort of hope for the best. So yeah, like Matteo was saying, adding changes or moving scripts around on your site is essentially the same as the wear and tear your car gets, that you eventually need new tires or an oil change or your spark plug replaced or things like that. That's what these sort of audits help discover and make sure you address those issues before they get to be too big and cause major problems.
Yep. All right, let's look into more detail our on-page SEO step of our overall website SEO audit. And as I mentioned before, let's look at your title tags, heading tags, meta descriptions, and URL structure.
One thing that might be helpful before we get too deep into title tags and what makes a good title tag is talking about what a title tag is. It's an element on every single page of your site has an element that's the title tag. And this line of text tells Google, here's what this page is about. It's a very short description saying, here's the title of this page. And that's what Google uses for the blue text when your site shows up in the search results. So in this findlaw.com, the title tag for this particular page is Best Houston Personal Injury Lawyers and Law Firms, Texas. That's findlaw.com telling Google, hey, here's what this page is about. And it tells anyone who's searching for it at a quick glance, they know whether that page is relevant to what they're searching for. So I'll let Matteo get back into what makes a good title tag and what you should be looking at.
Yes, this is what you said, Tim, was perfectly correct. In fact, the title tag is really what tells Google about what the page is going to be talking or mentioning about, right? So it's not just enough to say, I want this page to rank for this keyword, and hopefully that page magically will start ranking for the keyword you want it to rank. But really the title tag is what tells Google, I want this page to be ranking for this keyword. And obviously there are good ways and bad ways to write title tags. And the questions that you see here on the screen are sort of, can serve a little bit as a guide for you to know whether you're going in the right direction when writing title tags. So are your title tags unique on all pages? If the answer is yes, then you are on the right track. In fact, title tags need to be unique on all pages. And the reason why they need to be unique is because otherwise you'd have 2 or more pages optimized for the same keyword. And at that point, Google wouldn't really know which one to reward in the search results. And if Google cannot understand which page to reward, they'll end up not rewarding any of your pages. I like to think of Google just as a bot, as a robot, and not as a human. Google uses computing power to read pages and determine what those pages are about. And in front of 2 exact pages, Google won't be able to decide which one to rank and which one not to rank, right? So by having unique title tags, you essentially tell Google every page has a specific reason to exist and keyword that they need to be ranked for. Do your title tags include well-researched keywords? Every keyword or search phrase has a certain search volume or frequency with which people around the world or in a certain geographic area type them into Google to find the answer they need. So you want to optimize your pages for the exact keywords that your target market uses to search for the type of products or services that you offer. You then want to optimize your service, product, or blog pages for those keywords. But make sure that your pages only target the keywords that are actually relevant to your business. You don't want to target a keyword just because it has a high search volume and it's not relevant to the services or businesses or products that you offer. And lastly, are your title tags well written? Obviously, writing title tags in proper English, concisely, and generally we want to make sure that the keyword that you target is at the beginning of the title tag. That's kind of a general best practice that SEO use whenever writing title tags. And lastly, maybe important thing to note is that title tags can be as long as you want, but generally in the search results, Google only shows the first 50 to 60 characters. So Tim, if you go to this slide, if you write a title tag that is longer than 50 to 60 characters, Google will eventually truncate the title tag at some point and will not display it entirely. So we recommend to remain within the 50 to 60 characters for a title tag in order for you to really say everything you want to say without getting truncated in the search results.
Yeah, and you might not know what keywords you should be including in your title tag. Actually, we could do a whole another webinar on keyword research and how to figure out what keywords you should be targeting. But some quick tactics to get you started, or to just think about what you would search for to find your competitors. Sort of put your mind in the head of a potential client and think about what they might search for. And then there's lots of tools out there that can help you expand that initial brainstorm list into even more keywords, and then you can dig into things from there. So if we wanted to look at something like IT support Toronto, this tool Ubersuggest will give us a lot more information about that keyword and other related keywords. So we can see how many people search for it each month, the difficulty level. So this tells us Other sites that are also targeting that keyword and how strong they are. This gets into Google Ads, which we're not really covering today. And then more information down here if you were to pay for it, as well as other keywords you might want to look at as well that could be easier or harder for you to target. There's a lot that goes into picking out those keywords. But in general, you should just start off by thinking what you would search for to find your own business. And that'll give you a good starting point to dig into things further.
Perfect. All right, meta descriptions.
I'll jump ahead on this one too, so we can see an example of a meta description. In this case, a meta description it's also an element on each page of your site. And what Google does is it will show your meta description in the couple of rows just below the blue link. So this is your opportunity to explain a bit more about what you do, have maybe a little bit of a persuasive argument for why someone should click on your link when it shows up in the search results. And you can be a little bit more creative here because you have a little bit more space to write things.
That's right, Tim. Just as you said, meta descriptions you can think of that meta description really as something that complements your title tag. Meta description per se are not ranking factors, but if you are able to write a compelling meta description and entice people to click on your website whenever it appears in the search results, then will increase your click-through rate. And click-through rate is a ranking factor that Google considers when ranking websites in the search results. So the more people click on your result, the higher Google will reward you later on. So writing a compelling, enticing meta description is important, although it's not strictly related to rankings. What also is important is that you should, if ever possible, add your target keyword in the meta description. If you go again to the next slide, Tim, we can see that IT services in Toronto is the keyword that this website is targeting, and they add it in the meta description. And when somebody types into Google that exact same keyword, then that keyword would be bolded in the meta description, highlighting it even more and sort of enticing visitors or searchers to click on that result. Okay.
Anything more you wanted to cover here, Matteo?
Just making sure that the meta description matches sort of the intent behind the search query. It's also important. Do the searcher want to buy a product or a service? Are they just looking for information, or are they simply looking for simple answers? Whenever you know what the intent or the why behind the search query is, then you can adapt or craft your meta description accordingly, sort of to entice them even more to click and to think that that's the actual good result for them to visit.
Right, that's a really good point. And you can think about the different times someone would want to be searching for something. Maybe they just want a question answered, in which case something like a blog article is more likely to show up in the search results. And you might craft the meta description for that blog article to sort of tease what the answer to that question might be, so that you're enticing them to click. Or if it's a service page like it is in this example here, you can start throwing in some of the benefits of working with you. Like this company is showing that they have 24/7, 365 support. They're already talking about the benefits and being a little persuasive of why you should go read more about that service and that company and potentially do business with them down the line.
Okay, and then we have header tags. Header tags or headers are really the visible headlines on the page, on every page really. And they are used to separate headings and subheading on a web page. And they're ranked in order of importance. We start with H1, which is usually the page title at the very top of the page, down to H6. So what is really the difference between title tags and header tags? Because we covered title tags before. really the title tag is visible in the search results in Google, just like Tim said before, or when you share a URL in social media or on Slack with your colleagues, whereas the header tag is only visible on the page. So think of H1 as you would a book title, really. Usually there's only one title for a book, so there should only be one title for your page or blog post, and usually it is at the top of the page. And the other tags, H2, H3, H4, 5, and 6, are used to classify the main points that you're making throughout the page as paragraphs or to separate sections, similar to the chapters of the book, for example.
Now, one thing that is important to keep in mind here is sort of keyword consistency across all these different areas that we've been talking about. So if you have a page that should be targeting IT services, then ideally your title tag, your meta description, and the H1 of that page should all use IT services, or at least near variations. Google has gotten very good at being able to interpret slight differences. So something like IT solutions and IT services and IT support kind of get lumped into the same group of keywords in Google, and they can see that, okay, this is a consistent path here. But one thing that stands out as different when you get into header tags is now you should be thinking a lot more about marketing and the usability of the page itself. You don't want just IT services as your header alone, because that's not presenting any sort of persuasive argument for that person reading further in the page or wanting to work with you. So you might say something like, we're the easiest to use IT services company in metro area. So you're getting a bit more into marketing copywriting here. And something we'll talk about a bit later when we're getting into content is that for a lot of this, you should be thinking about writing for humans first and search engines second. That being persuasive and having a good marketing message and having good, useful content comes first before search engine optimization. You really should be thinking about, how do I make this page as useful as possible, as interesting as possible, and then go back and say, okay, where can I make adjustments to improve the optimization of the page? And that's where coming in and tweaking things like the title tag or the headers to make sure you're using appropriate keywords is helpful after you've written sort of your persuasive argument for why they should work with you.
All right, the second step of our website SEO audit is the technical analysis. And as I mentioned before, this step looks at the invisible element that make up parts of your website. Something like elements that could have a negative impact on your website performance overall. So all right, I'll try to keep this section short and simple, as it can get really unnecessarily complicated. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, our goal is to identify those low-hanging fruits that, if addressed immediately, can yield better results for your website. So let's start with site errors. The most common ones are canonical tags, duplicate pages, internal links error, redirects, and unsecure pages. And all of these can affect the way your website gets crawled and indexed on Google and other search engines. So redirect chains, for example, are links from sites that are linking to your site via a redirect, for example. So let's take Forbes.com as an example site linking to your site through a redirect. What can a redirect look like? If you think about URL shorteners, for example, there are many out there. One very popular is Bitly. Google also has a URL shortener service. And what they essentially do are simply just putting a very long URL and shortening it into a memorable one. What happens is that that link that goes from Forbes to your site through a URL shortener is essentially a redirect. Ideally, you want Forbes.com to link directly to your site instead of going through sort of quote unquote a middleman, a redirect. By doing so, Google will be able to interpret that link that comes from whatever, Forbes or any other website as a direct mention from them to your site. We'll see later how to fix this thing and how to make sure that the redirects gets fixed whenever possible. Other errors could be duplicate pages and canonical tags. This issue actually happens when you have two pages, just like we mentioned before, with the exact same content, but you don't declare which version or which page you want Google to reward in the search results with a canonical tag. So a canonical tag is nothing more than an HTML piece of code that goes on a page. And if you have two pages that have the exact same content, for example, if one of these two pages have a canonical tag, tells that piece of code tells Google, please reward this version and not the other one, which might be the exact same, but I want you to reward this version. If you don't have this canonical tag, Google is not able to determine which one to reward. And as I mentioned before, they will likely not reward any version of your pages.
Yeah, like Matteo was saying, when you're getting into technical stuff like this, it can feel a bit overwhelming. Fully understanding these sorts of issues and knowing how to fix them sort of requires getting into the weeds a little bit about SEO and website development. But there are tools that can help. A few that we like are Ahrefs, which can scan your website and tell you what stands out as potential errors. Ahrefs provides a bunch of other things like keyword research and backlink tracking and things like that. So it's sort of a full service suite of SEO tools. There's also Screaming Frog, which has a free downloadable version of their tool, but it comes with some limitations. And again, this does a scan of your site and spits out a full report of everything it finds. But you do need a little bit of SEO knowledge then to interpret that data and figure out what's going on. And there's a great tool that we use for tracking and handling redirects. So if you have a Pronto site, this plugin is already installed. And if you ever need things related to redirects fixed, you can just let us know, email our support team at support@prontomarketing.com. We can jump in and to handle things in this plugin for you. But one other thing I wanted to mention that I think is very useful for all business owners or anyone who's responsible for a website to keep track of is to have an account at Google Search Console. So if you're already a Pronto client, we have this set up for your site already. You can just send in a message to us and make sure we add you as a user to your Google Search Console account. And what this will do, it gives you a bunch of data about your site's performance, but it also keeps track of errors that Google has found on your site. And when they discover a new error, they'll shoot you an email saying, hey, we found this new issue on your site. You should do something about it. And then it's really easy for you to just forward that email directly to our support team. We can look into it for you and take care of fixing it for you as well. So this sort of eliminates a lot of the technical knowledge that you need to have to fix these things, because you get sort of a proactive email and then our support team can look into that issue and take care of it for you.
Maybe one last thing about these tools is some other people might be familiar with SEMrush. SEMrush is very, very similar to Ahrefs. We do use Ahrefs, but SEMrush pretty much accomplishes the exact same things that Ahrefs does. It provides recommendations as to what is good, what is not good on a site at any given time.
Yeah, and one more group of tools that can be useful are for tracking the speed of your page. For a few years, Google was kind of iffy about whether page speed had an impact on rankings, but especially in the last couple of years, they've been very clear and very direct that the speed that a page loads does impact its ability to rank. So it's important that you make sure you don't have any huge issues with load time on your site. And there's a couple of helpful tools for this. One is Google's Page Speed Insights. Here I ran youtube.com, and we can see they actually have a lot of work to do. They're performing pretty poorly here, have some pretty slow times for loading, which isn't great for them. And another one that we like as well is GTmetrix. This gets a lot deeper into development level things about what you can do. Both tools provide recommendations about how to improve your performance. But if you're worried about your page speed and you're a Pronto client, you can just send in a support ticket. We can guide you through some easy fixes that we can potentially do. We do have a paid speed audit service as well, where we go sort of line by line through the code of a page and improve the speed of it, which you can see. Here's one of our clients who went through that page speed audit and got their desktop performance score on Google page speed up to 93, which was a huge improvement compared to what it was before. So it is important that you pay attention to things like page speed because it will have an impact on your ranking.
Right. Well, the last very important step of the technical audit is the broken backlink check. A broken backlink is simply an incoming link from another website that points to a 404 page. And a 404 page is nothing else than a page that is not found. You could have deleted that page for whatever reason, or maybe the link just points to a page that really never existed. For example, if we take Forbes again, linking to one of your service pages, and at some point, for whatever reason, as I just mentioned, you want to change the URL of that page, and you don't redirect that page, that old URL to the new URL, then the link coming from Forbes.com will end up going to a broken page, and that's going to be called a broken backlink. So how do we fix this? You can either redirect the old URL of your service page to the new URL, so that the link coming in from Forbes will look as if it was pointing already to the new URL. Alternatively, what you can do is, if you know whoever has linked from Forbes to your site, you can reach out to them and ask them to change the link to point straight to the new URL. In that case, you're going to avoid a couple things. You're going to avoid a broken link, but you're also going to avoid a redirect. So you're going to have a clean link coming from another site to your site. This is very important, and we're not going to touch too much on off-page SEO and link building, but generally when a link points to a broken page, the link equity, the link strength is not going to pass on to your site. So by fixing this, the link equity of whatever link you're getting will be passed on to your site, and you're going to benefit from it by having a higher domain authority over time. And lastly, we have the content analysis. The goal of this last important step is not to provide any stylistic recommendations of your written content, but more so to identify content-specific issues that Google considers detrimental for the rankings of a website. Again, Google is a machine that cannot really judge how well a piece of content is from a creative or technical writing point of view, but Google really uses several other criteria to determine whether a piece of content is valuable. And so when we analyze the copy of a website, we specifically focus on whether the page content itself ranks anywhere in the search results for the desired keyword. We're not just looking at top 10 results, we're really looking at globally, like up to the 100th position. But as long as the page gets picked up for the keyword that you are optimizing for, then we should be good. If not, then we are going to look into things like URL, title tag, H tag, and generally making sure that if the keyword is present in one of these three elements and is not ranking for that keyword, then maybe something is wrong, and we need to look into things like average word count. Does your page have enough words in order for it to rank for that specific keyword? Keyword density, is the target keyword mentioned enough times throughout the body of the page so that Google understands that you want that page to be found for that keyword? what is the number of headings that your page has? And generally, what content type, what page type are you using? Is it a listicle, like a bullet point type of page? Is it a long form article? Is it a how-to article? Is it a checklist? There's plenty other content types. So by making sure that your page uses the right content type for the type of keyword and search intent of that specific keyword, we can really determine why that page is not ranking.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate again how important it is to write for humans first and write useful content before you go optimizing it, or in some cases that we see over optimizing it for search engines to the point that it takes away from the persuasiveness or the helpfulness of that content. Maybe sort of the ideal way of approaching a new piece of content would be to have an SEO specialist do some keyword research, figure out what keywords you should be targeting, look at the competitors who are already ranking for that and make some recommendations about the type of content that you should be creating, and then handing that over to a marketing copywriter who's going to write really persuasive, useful, helpful content to the audience that you're trying to reach. And once that content is all written, sending it back over to the SEO specialist again and saying, hey, can you look over this, adjust some keywords where you see fit, make sure we have the right keyword in the H1 and it's used appropriately throughout the body of the text, all that sort of stuff. So really great content does require a collaboration from a couple different experts in different fields to deliver something that's going to be both useful to humans and also optimized for Google in sort of meeting the needs and the criteria that they're looking for as well.
Perfect. Yes. This is probably one of the last slides we have, keyword cannibalization. I know it sounds a bit scary, but this is just this just means really that two or more pages are targeting the same keyword and competing against each other. We've mentioned this a couple times already. You want every page to be targeting a unique keyword. And if this doesn't happen, then Google cannot understand or cannot judge which page should be rewarded in the search results. Even us at Pronto, we want to rank for keywords like WordPress web design or SEO services. But by building multiple pages targeting those exact same keywords will not give us more opportunities to rank for them. If anything, we are probably going to undermine our chances because Google really will not be able to pick up which page, which version of the page should they rank for those keywords. So really, as a general rule, think of it as one page, one keyword, and you should be good in terms of keyword cannibalization. You should probably never really have this issue, but it is a pretty common issue. People want to rank for their service or product keywords, and they think the more pages I build targeting that keyword, the more chances I'm going to have. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah, that makes sense. And even though we're not getting into off-page optimization or link building today, making sure you only have one page for one keyword and you're focusing all your efforts on that one page is useful as well. So when you get into tactics like link building, then you only have to build links to one page in order to make it successful, rather than maybe dozens of pages if you were trying to build too many pages to target that one keyword.
And this is how we can help you. Today, we are launching our new website SEO audit service. And it follows exactly this three-step process that we've just gone through together today. We take a high-level snapshot of the state of your website. We condense all the information in a digestible, easy to understand format. We highlight all the issues that could potentially hinder your site's performance, and we'll let you choose which pages are more important to you and your business that you want to start optimizing right now in order to get better results. Yep.
All right, we'll skip the Q&A today, but in a couple of slides, we'll show my email and Mateo's email. All of you are welcome to send any questions you have to us directly. And Matteo and I are always happy to answer and help out in any way we can. But with that, we will move on to our special offer, which is a $500 credit towards the SEO audit service that Matteo was just talking about. This is applicable to both existing Pronto clients as well as people who haven't started working with Pronto yet. So if you want that audit service, we normally charge $200 for the audit itself. You'll get that for free. Plus, you'll get a few pages optimized by our SEO experts included in there as well. It's available to the first 15 registrants who respond through the link here down at the bottom. And we'll send this link in an email as well, so don't worry about trying to write it down real quick or anything like that. But sign up as soon as you can, since spaces are limited, and we'll jump into your site and give our recommendations about what you should do to optimize for the best keywords that you should be targeting. And with that, we'll wrap things up. Like I said, you're welcome to email me at tim@prontomarketing.com or matteo@prontomarketing.com. So send us your questions, whether it's related to today's webinar or Pronto in general, anything. We're always happy to help in any way we can. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us for the webinar. I hope it was helpful, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, everyone.